In the peaceful village of Tundoka lived a humble and kind-hearted young woman named Zarima. She was the daughter of a poor weaver, but her heart was richer than most. Everyone who met her admired her soft voice, gentle smile, and healing hands. Though she came from a humble background, she carried a quiet strength and grace that made her stand out. She often helped the sick in her village with herbs and natural remedies, never asking for anything in return. People called her a gift from the gods, but Zarima never saw herself as anything special. She was simply kind by nature. One day, during a colorful village festival filled with dancing, drumming, and laughter, fate brought a visitor from far away. Lunjo, the only son of the mighty Chief Bosaro from Kimboa village, had come to witness the festival. He was used to wealth, power, and grand surroundings, but something about Tundoka's simple beauty caught his attention, especially Zarima. He watched her from a distance, how she helped an elderly woman walk through the crowd, how she smiled at the children, how she served food to strangers with joy. She wasn't dressed in gold or silk like other women he had met. Her clothes were simple, her hair tied in a modest wrap, but her heart shone like no jewel ever could. Lunjo was deeply moved by her kindness. In just a few days, he found himself drawn to her more than he had ever been to anyone. He began to visit more often, helping her fetch water, joining her on herb walks, even sitting with her father to learn how he wove mats. The entire village watched with wide eyes. What was a chief's son doing in a poor weaver's house? But Lunjo didn't care about class or wealth. He had found something rare, true peace in Zarima's presence. When he finally asked for her hand in marriage, whispers flew like wind across both villages. Some said it was love, others called it foolishness. His family wasn't pleased, especially his younger sister Sahara, who believed her brother deserved someone from a royal bloodline, not a barefoot village girl. But Lunjo stood firm. "I want a wife with a good heart, not a crown on her head," he said. Their wedding was simple, held under the large baobab tree in Tundoka. No expensive decorations, no royal guests, just the people who loved them, singing and dancing with joy. Zarima wore a hand-woven dress made by her father, and her only jewelry was a beaded necklace gifted by Lunjo. They didn't have gold, but they had love, and that was enough. After the wedding, Zarima moved into the large estate of Chief Bosaro in Kimboa village. The house was grand, with tall gates, marble floors, and servants in every corner. But behind those walls, not every heart welcomed her. While Chief Bosaro was polite, his daughter Sahara watched Zarima with burning eyes full of jealousy and pride. She couldn't accept that a village girl had taken her brother's heart and now lived in the house she once ruled alone. At first, Zarima tried her best to win everyone's love. She treated the servants with respect, helped in the kitchen, and cared for the sick in the household. But no matter how hard she tried, Sahara found fault in everything she did. Behind sweet smiles, she began planting seeds of hatred, whispers, rumors, lies. She waited patiently, hoping for a moment to ruin Zarima's place in the family. And so, while Zarima thought her new life was a blessing, a storm was already forming in the shadows, one that would shake everything she held dear. Sahara, the younger sister of Lunjo, was a woman known for her beauty and pride. She carried herself like a queen, always dressed in fine fabrics and adorned in shining jewels. But behind her graceful appearance was a heart filled with envy. Ever since her mother passed away, Sahara believed she would become the woman of the house. She imagined herself running the estate, giving orders, and being the center of attention. But all her dreams started to crumble the day Zarima stepped into their home as Lunjo's wife. At first, Sahara tried to hide her dislike, but it was not easy. She watched how her father, Chief Bosaro, began smiling more whenever Zarima spoke. He admired her respect, her gentle tone, her helping hands. The servants, too, started speaking highly of Zarima. Even the village women who once feared Sahara now praised the new bride. And what hurt Sahara most was the way her brother, Lunjo, looked at Zarima with love, pride, and deep affection. It was a kind of admiration Sahara had never seen in him before. "She's just a common village girl. What spell has she cast on this family?" Sahara would complain almost every day to her closest friend, Nadali. Nadali, known for her gossip and arrogance, only fueled Sahara's fire. "They're all blind, but don't worry, one day they'll see who the real queen is," she would whisper, pouring more poison into Sahara's heart. Soon, Sahara's jealousy turned into action. She began mocking Zarima openly. If Zarima wore a simple wrapper, Sahara would smirk and say, "Are you going to the farm or serving in a palace?" If Zarima cooked, she would taste the food and loudly say, "This smells like a poor woman's pot." Even the way Zarima spoke, softly and humbly, became a reason for mockery. Sahara would imitate her voice in front of others, making everyone laugh. But Zarima never answered back. She would simply smile or walk away quietly. Her silence made Sahara even angrier. She wanted Zarima to fight back, to argue, to show weakness. But Zarima remained calm, like still water that refused to be stirred. The more Sahara tried to break her, the stronger Zarima's presence became in the house. Zarima continued showing kindness to everyone. She helped the servants with their tasks. She cared for Chief Basaro when he fell ill, and she supported Lunjo in all his duties. Her grace and humility slowly started winning the hearts of even those who once doubted her. But to Sahara, this was unbearable. Every smile Zarima received, every word of praise spoken about her, felt like a slap to Sahara's pride. "She thinks she's perfect," Sahara hissed one day to Nadeli, "but I'll make sure she falls." And from that moment on, Sahara began plotting. It was no longer just jealousy. It became a mission to destroy Zarima's peace. She searched for every chance to twist stories, spread rumors, and turn the family against Zarima. She wanted to make everyone believe that the calm, sweet bride they loved was not as innocent as she seemed. But what Sahara didn't know was that sometimes, when you dig a trap for others, you may fall into it yourself. Still, her bitterness grew day by day, turning her heart darker, her mind sharper, and her hatred deeper. And while Zarima remained graceful and unaware of what was coming, the shadows of betrayal were already creeping closer, ready to strike when she least expected it. Sahara knew how to play the game of manipulation. She didn't fight with fists or shout in anger. She used whispers, lies, and carefully planted seeds of doubt. Every move she made was calculated, and slowly she began poisoning the minds of those around her without even lifting a finger in public. "She's not who you think she is," Sahara whispered to her father one night. "Lunjo has changed since she arrived. He doesn't smile the same. Something is wrong." Chief Basaro, though silent at first, began to watch Zarima differently. He started noticing little things, not because anything was wrong, but because Sahara's words had already clouded his judgment. Sahara didn't stop there. She accused Zarima of stealing food supplies from the storehouse, quietly whispering to the housekeeper, "Have you not noticed how quickly the yams and rice are disappearing? Ask yourselves who handles the storeroom now." The housekeepers, unsure and afraid to question the chief's daughter, began to keep their distance from Zarima. To make things worse, Sahara began tampering with the household accounts. She quietly changed numbers, hid records, and made it look like Zarima was secretly taking money. Then, one day, she hid a stolen bracelet in Zarima's drawer and pretended to discover it by chance, in front of the whole family. "Look," she gasped dramatically. "This was my mother's. How did it end up in Zarima's things?" Zarima was stunned. She had no idea how the bracelet got there. Her heart ached, but no one would listen. The more she tried to explain, the more Sahara twisted the truth. Every word Zarima spoke was turned against her, and people began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, Sahara was right. Chief Basaro started giving Zarima cold stares. Even Lunjo, confused by the rising tension, began questioning his wife. He didn't want to believe the rumors, but with everyone talking and pressure building from his family, cracks began to form in his trust. Zarima cried quietly at night, feeling lost and broken. She had done nothing wrong, yet everything around her was falling apart. The love she once felt in her new home was turning into suspicion and pain. Still, she kept serving the family, hoping her truth would shine through. But Sahara's lies had already poisoned too many hearts. Then, as if fate was testing her further, Lunjo suddenly fell ill. His body grew weak from stress and exhaustion, and he spent days in bed. The family panicked, unsure of what had caused his sudden decline, and Sahara, always waiting for the right moment, pounced like a snake. "She's cursed him," she cried before the family elders. "Her ancestors must have practiced witchcraft. That's why he's sick. She brought evil into this house." Her voice was filled with fake pain, tears flowing like a river, convincing the elders that she was genuinely afraid for her brother's life. Zarima knelt, weeping, begging the elders to listen, to believe her. "I would never harm him. I love him," she pleaded. But no one listened. The same people who once praised her now looked at her with fear and doubt. Sahara had turned everyone against her. And just like that, the gentle woman who once brought light into the household was cast into darkness, accused of things her pure heart could never imagine. That night, the sky wept with fury, as if the heavens themselves couldn't bear the injustice unfolding before the gates of the Basaro estate. Rain poured down in heavy sheets, soaking the earth and hiding the sound of Zarima's quiet sobs. She stood alone, clutching her swollen belly, her body trembling from the cold, but even more from the heartbreak inside her. The woman who had once been welcomed with love and laughter was now being cast out like a stranger, accused of things her innocent heart could never even imagine. Behind her, the grand estate doors slammed shut, the warmth and protection of the home she had once built now denied to her. Lunjo, weak and sickly, wanted to reach out, to stop them, but his body betrayed him. He stood helplessly, barely able to speak, while the elders restrained him, convinced that Zarima's presence was a curse. Sahara stood proudly on the veranda, her arms folded, a cruel smile curling on her lips. "Take your witchcraft and go back to your filthy village," she spat, her voice cold and sharp like a blade. Her words pierced deeper than any wound. Zarima's heart shattered. The people she had once cared for, the very servants she had shared food with, laughed with, and helped in times of need, turned their faces away. No one offered a shawl. No one spoke a word in her defense. The poison Sahara had poured into their hearts had done its job. It was as if Zarima had never existed. Tears streamed down her face, mixing with the rain, as she turned away from the only place she had called home. She walked barefoot into the darkness, each step heavy with pain. The cold night air bit into her skin, but the ache in her heart was far worse. She didn't know where she was going, only that she had to keep moving, for herself and for the innocent life growing inside her. Her strength began to fade as hours passed. Her body was tired, her clothes drenched, her breath shallow, her legs trembled, and finally, with no one in sight, she collapsed by the side of a muddy path. The rain continued to fall, but Zarima didn't move. Everything had gone dark. Just when all hope seemed lost, fate sent her a savior. An old herbalist named Mama Yolani was traveling down that road with her cart filled with roots, herbs, and medicines. She spotted the lifeless figure in the distance and rushed forward, shocked to find a pregnant woman unconscious in the mud. Without hesitation, Mama Yolani lifted Zarima into her cart and covered her with her cloak. She took her to Makanda village, a quiet, humble place where healing, kindness, and community still mattered. There, Zarima was nursed back to health by Mama Yolani and her village sisters. Slowly, her strength returned, and so did her hope. She had lost everything: her home, her family, her dignity. But in that little village, something new was beginning to grow. Not just the child inside her, but also a spark of resilience in her heart. The woman who was thrown out into the storm was not broken. She was only just beginning a new story, one that no lie could silence and no hatred could erase. Days passed slowly, but Zarima held on, even when her heart still carried the weight of betrayal. In a quiet corner of Makanda village, beneath a small thatched roof, she gave birth to a healthy baby boy. She named him Fureni, a name that meant hope after fire. He became her light in the darkest days, her reason to keep going when the world had turned its back on her. Every time she looked into his eyes, she found strength she didn't know she had. Life wasn't easy. There were nights when she had nothing but boiled roots to eat, days when her hands bled from foraging herbs in the wild. But Zarima never complained. Wrapped in a simple wrapper, with Fureni tied to her back, she followed Mama Yolani deep into the forest, learning about healing plants, roots, and ancient remedies. Mama Yolani became her teacher, her mentor, and her mother in spirit. Zarima soaked in every lesson. She learned how to prepare tonics, treat wounds, and recognize rare herbs that others feared to touch. She became fearless, often venturing into dangerous parts of the forest to gather the most powerful plants. And slowly, the people began to notice her. One day, a boy with a swollen leg came limping to her. With just a simple mix of herbs and warm poultices, she healed him. Days later, another woman brought her child suffering from fever, and Zarima's gentle hands brought the child back from the brink. Soon, word began to spread through the village and beyond. People whispered her name with respect. They called her the woman with healing hands. They called her. Those who once looked at her with pity now came to her door in hope. Snake bites, broken bones, skin infections, whatever the illness. Zarima faced it with calm confidence and silent prayer. She worked tirelessly, treating villagers during the day and collecting herbs at dawn and dusk. Every coin she earned, she saved. Bit by bit, she bought bamboo, clay and grass to build a small herbal hut near the market road. It started with just one table and a few baskets of herbs, but soon it grew into a full healing center, with villagers lining up outside her door. Her hut became a sanctuary. Even the village elders came seeking her help, bringing offerings of yams and millet in gratitude. Children brought her flowers. Women praised her strength. Men bowed their heads in respect. No one saw her as the abandoned wife anymore. She was a healer, a warrior, a woman who rose from ashes and turned pain into purpose. She is no ordinary woman, the village elders said during one of their council meetings. Her pain birthed power, and indeed, it was true. Zarima's journey from shame to strength was no less than a miracle. Her face still carried sadness at times, but her spirit had become fierce and unbreakable. The scars of the past were still there, but now they looked like marks of honor, not defeat. She didn't know that far away in Kimboa village, her enemies were falling into their own traps. All she focused on was healing others, raising her son, and becoming better each day. But fate was not done with her yet. Zarima was no longer the quiet bride thrown out in the rain. She had transformed into a woman the world could no longer ignore. Time moved like a river, steady and strong, and so did Zarima's life. The pain of the past faded, replaced by the rhythm of purpose and success. Her small herbal hut, once a simple shelter of clay and bamboo, had now grown into a flourishing center of healing. People no longer just came from Makandi village. They traveled from distant towns and villages, carrying their sick, their injured, and their hopes, all resting in Zarima's hands. What began as survival had become a movement. Zarima started training young women from poor families, those who were forgotten by society, just like she once was. She taught them how to recognize herbs, prepare medicines, and treat patients with compassion. These girls, once timid and unsure, found strength in her guidance. Her small healing hut turned into a training center, and her teachings became a legacy. Zarima was no longer just a healer. She was a leader. Her calm voice and warm heart earned her respect from chiefs, elders, and even traveling merchants. People started calling her Mama Zarima, the Queen of Healing. She created jobs, uplifted families, and inspired women to rise above their pain and stand tall. Meanwhile, her son Fureni had grown into a fine young man. He was intelligent, humble, and carried his mother's wisdom in his heart. He helped manage the business, kept records, and even traveled to nearby towns to spread awareness about their herbal medicine. People admired him not just for his knowledge, but for his kind spirit. Whenever anyone praised him, he would smile and say, "It's my mother who taught me everything." One morning, a grand horse carriage arrived at Zarima's healing center. From it stepped Komoro, a renowned and wealthy trader whose name echoed across the region. He had heard of Zarima's healing skills and came to seek her partnership. He offered to help expand her work beyond the district, creating a supply chain to deliver her herbal remedies to villages far and wide. Zarima hesitated at first. She had never dreamed of wealth or fame. But Komoro's vision wasn't about just profit. It was about reaching those in need. With Fureni's encouragement, she agreed. Together, they built a powerful herbal healing empire. New branches opened in 6 villages, each led by the women Zarima had trained. Her name was etched on wooden signboards across the region. Mama Zarima's healing house, where nature cures. Her business flourished beyond imagination. What once started with a basket of roots had now become a symbol of hope for thousands. She bought land, built a large training institute, and started a foundation to support widows and orphans. Journalists wrote about her. Elders invited her to council meetings. Chiefs sought her advice. Children sang songs about her strength. But through all this success, Zarima remained humble. She never forgot the cold rain, the betrayal, or the lonely nights. Instead, she used that pain to push forward. Her healing hands had mended not only wounds, but hearts, homes, and broken dreams. Zarima, once the poor weaver's daughter who was thrown out with nothing but pain in her heart, had now become the most powerful and respected woman in the region. She didn't wear a crown, but her people called her a queen, not for her riches, but for the power she gave others through her courage, her kindness, and her healing. And little did she know, her past, the one she had buried deep, was about to knock on her door again, begging for mercy. Back in Kimboa, the once proud Bosaro estate had turned into a house of sorrow and destruction. After Zarima was thrown out, Sahara finally felt like she had won. She walked around like a queen, giving orders, flaunting jewelry, and making sure everyone knew she was in charge. But what she didn't realize was that her victory was short-lived and built on nothing but lies and poison. With Chief Bosaro growing weaker and Lunjo distant and cold, Sahara took over the estate's finances. At first, everything seemed smooth. She changed the servants, decorated the house in her own style, and started throwing parties with her gossip-loving friends. They praised her endlessly, feeding her pride. She spent without thinking, believing the wealth would never run out. Expensive clothes, gold necklaces, exotic foods. Sahara wanted to show the world that she was the real queen of the house. But greed is a fire that never stops burning. When a smooth-talking businessman named Duma came into her life, Sahara saw an opportunity to grow her wealth even more. He promised quick profits and luxurious returns. Blinded by greed, Sahara invested a large portion of the estate's money into his scheme. Without consulting anyone, she trusted him blindly. One day, Duma disappeared without a trace. Along with him, vanished all the money. Panic took over. The estate's finances were in ruins. Bills piled up. Servants left. Lunjo, unable to bear the shame and guilt, packed his things and moved to the city. He didn't say a word to Sahara. He wanted nothing to do with the house or his scheming sister. The man who once stood silently while his wife suffered could no longer bear the house that had destroyed his happiness. The final blow came when Chief Bosaro, heartbroken and sick, collapsed in his chambers. The stress of the collapsing estate and his daughter's betrayal was too much. He was bedridden, his strong voice now reduced to silence. Debt collectors started arriving like vultures. One by one, Sahara watched as her father's lands were taken, their possessions auctioned, and their once great name dragged through the mud. The villagers who once bowed to her now whispered behind her back. The friends who once cheered her on vanished like smoke. No one came to help her. No one offered comfort. The same people who had laughed with her now avoided her like a curse. Sahara's health began to fail. Her body weakened, her face lost its glow, and her pride melted away. She was no longer the beautiful daughter of a chief. She was a broken woman with nothing left but regret. Every corner of the house reminded her of the lies she told and the heart she destroyed. Food became scarce. The house became cold and empty. Every night, Sahara cried alone, haunted by Zarima's calm face and kind eyes. The same woman she once mocked, insulted, and destroyed now seemed like a distant angel she could never reach. Eventually, even the house was taken. Sahara was forced to leave the estate, carrying a small bag of clothes, walking the same dusty roads she once looked down upon. She had no one left, no money, no home, no dignity. She wandered from village to village, begging for food, sleeping under trees, wearing tattered clothes. The proud daughter of Chief Bosaro had become a shadow, a warning to others that karma never forgets. And as fate would have it, her journey was about to lead her to the most unexpected doorstep, the one she once closed on a pregnant woman, now opened by a powerful queen of healing, the same woman she had once called a witch. One early morning, as the sun rose over the quiet hills of Makanda village, a weak and broken woman stumbled along the dusty road. Her feet were swollen, her clothes torn, and her body trembling from hunger. It was Sahara. The once proud and powerful daughter of Chief Bosaro was now nothing more than a shadow of herself. Her hair was messy, her face thin and pale, and her eyes hollow with pain. She had been wandering from village to village, begging for food and shelter, but no one cared. The people who once praised her now turned their backs. She had lost everything. As she limped into the village square, she overheard two women talking about a generous and powerful herbal healer, a woman who helped the poor and healed the sick. "She's not just a healer," one of them said. "She's the queen of healing. People come from faraway lands just to see her." Sahara's ears perked up. "What's her name?" she asked with a dry voice. "Zarima," the woman replied with a smile. "Zarima, the queen of healing." Sahara froze. Her lips trembled. Her knees almost gave out. "Zarima," she whispered. "No, it can't be. Not her." Memories rushed back like a storm. The girl she mocked, insulted, and chased away. The same woman she once called a witch was now a queen in her own right. But Sahara was too weak to turn back. Hunger and pain pushed her forward. Her pride was gone. She had nothing to lose. She followed the villagers' directions and reached the grand herbal estate. It wasn't flashy like her old mansion, but it was warm and beautiful. Lush gardens surrounded the compound, and the air smelled of healing herbs and peace. Laughter filled the place. People talked joyfully, children played, and workers moved about with respect and purpose. It was a home, not just a house. As Sahara reached the entrance, her strength gave up. She collapsed at the gate, unconscious. The guards and workers rushed to help. When they saw her face, they were stunned. One of them ran to call the Queen of Healing. Zarima came out quickly, curious about the commotion, but as soon as she saw the woman lying at her gate, her heart skipped a beat. It was Sahara. Her heart tightened for a moment. The same woman who had once stood on a veranda and thrown her out while she was pregnant now lay helpless at her doorstep. For a few seconds, Zarima was speechless, but she didn't let bitterness guide her. She was no longer the broken girl who once cried in the rain. She was a woman of strength and compassion. "Take her inside," Zarima said softly. "She needs rest." The workers gently carried Sahara into a guest room and gave her food and medicine. When she woke up, her eyes filled with tears, not just from pain, but from shame. She looked around and saw everything Zarima had built, how people respected her, how she healed others, how she had turned her pain into power. Sahara couldn't stop crying. "I don't deserve this kindness," she said in a broken voice. Zarima looked at her calmly. "Life teaches us in strange ways," she replied. "I forgave you a long time ago." Sahara lowered her head, speechless. The woman she once called weak now stood tall, while she, once powerful, had fallen. The circle of life had turned, and karma had spoken, loud and clear. When Sahara slowly opened her eyes, the first thing she saw was a soft hand, gently wiping her forehead with a damp cloth. Her blurry vision cleared, and her heart sank when she recognized the face leaning over her. It was Zarima. For a moment, Sahara thought she was dreaming, but it was real. The same woman she had insulted, pushed away, and left to suffer, was now the one caring for her with kindness and compassion. The weight of shame fell heavy on Sahara's chest. She turned her face away, but tears had already begun rolling down her cheeks. Her body shook as emotions took over. "I don't deserve your kindness," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I don't even deserve to drink water in your house." Zarima didn't speak. Her face remained calm, but her eyes were full of emotions. Years of pain, strength, and now, forgiveness. She sat beside Sahara quietly, allowing her to pour out the burden she had carried for years. "Why?" Zarima finally asked in a soft voice. "Why did you hate me so much? What did I ever do to deserve that pain?" Sahara broke down completely. She covered her face and cried like a child. "I was jealous," she confessed. "You were kind, gentle, and everyone admired you. I wanted to control everything after my mother died. I wanted the spotlight. I thought if I made you look weak, I would shine brighter. But in the end, I lost everything." She slid down from the bed and knelt at Zarima's feet. Her hands shook as she held onto Zarima's gown. "Please, forgive me. I beg you. I have nothing left but regret." Zarima looked down at her, holding back tears. The scene was surreal. Once upon a time, she stood outside a gate in tears while Sahara mocked her. But now, life had reversed the roles. The same woman who once humiliated her was now on her knees, broken and begging. By this time, some villagers had gathered around, quietly watching the moment unfold. They were shocked to see the once proud and elegant Sahara crawling at the feet of the Queen of Healing. The same woman Sahara once called a village girl. Whispers filled the air. Some were stunned, others deeply moved. But no one spoke aloud. They all waited to see how Zarima would respond. Zarima gently reached out and lifted Sahara to her feet. She looked into her eyes and said, "Pain teaches us what pride hides. I carried my pain in silence for years, but I never wished evil for you. Today, I see your pain, and I choose to forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because peace is more powerful than revenge." Sahara collapsed into her arms, crying even harder. That day, a powerful lesson was taught without shouting, without punishment, without bitterness. The villagers talked about it for days, how the woman once thrown out in shame came back not just with success, but with grace and forgiveness. And as the sun set that evening, everyone realized one thing: kindness never fails, and karma, it always knows the right time. Zarima looked at Sahara, her heart calm but firm. She gently held her arm and helped her stand up. "Stand up," she said softly. "I forgave you the day you threw me out. I let go of the pain long ago, but that doesn't mean I'll forget everything. You must still face the results of your actions." Sahara lowered her head in silence. She knew she had no right to ask for more. Her pride had brought her downfall, and now, even mercy felt like a gift too big for her mistakes. Zarima didn't turn her back on her. She gave Sahara a small room on the edge of the village, not inside her estate, but far enough to give her shelter. It wasn't a palace, but it was safe and peaceful. She made sure Sahara had food to eat, clean water, and medicine to treat her illness. But that was all. "There is kindness in forgiveness," Zarima said, "but true lessons are learned through consequences. You must live with what you created." Sahara accepted it. She didn't complain. Day by day, she began to live a life of quiet reflection. Often, she could be seen sitting alone by the stream, watching birds fly across the sky, or listening to the wind rustle through the trees. Her face no longer carried pride, only deep thoughts and quiet sorrow. She never returned to her old ways. Instead, she stayed humble, helping small children carry water, guiding lost travelers, and silently thanking those who showed her little acts of kindness. The once proud and arrogant Sahara had turned into a quiet, forgotten woman, living not with riches, but with memories and regrets. Meanwhile, Zarima's life kept shining brighter. Her healing empire spread across the region, and her name was known far and wide. People traveled from distant lands just to meet her, to learn from her wisdom and receive her healing touch. She never let success change her heart. She remained kind, humble, and graceful. Her son, Fureni, grew into a brilliant young man, known not just for his intelligence, but for his kindness and respect for others. He became a scholar, a teacher, and a symbol of wisdom in the land. People often said, "If you want to raise a great child, raise them with love and pain like Zarima did." And so, the story of Zarima and Sahara became a tale told from one generation to another in Makande village. A tale not just of pain and betrayal, but of strength, justice, and forgiveness. The villagers never forgot how the same woman who was once mocked and thrown out came back, stronger, wiser, and more powerful than ever, not with revenge, but with grace. Mothers told their daughters, "Be like Zarima, rise from pain, forgive when it hurts, and walk with dignity." Fathers told their sons, "Learn from Fureni, let your heart be full of kindness, not pride." And everyone learned one powerful truth: when you steal someone's happiness, when you use lies and jealousy to destroy a good soul, you may enjoy for a while, but karma always finds its way back. It may take time, it may walk slowly, but it never misses its target. And when it finally arrives, it teaches lessons louder than any punishment ever could. That was the story of Zarima, the Queen of Healing. A woman who lost everything but found herself. A woman who turned her scars into strength, her tears into triumph, and her enemies into forgotten shadows of her past. If you were inspired by Zarima's
कपूस बन के रहे ठहरे तेरे मताम सारे को नहीं भुगती दे समझ आनी पे ते अपने काम से तवज्जो दे बंदा बन इंसान बन मेहनत तो ठीक पिया करना है समझ आनी पे ते 8 दिहाड़े हिको जी मेहनत वक्त तक पता नुकसान देंदी है सही समझ आंदी पे क्योंकि थोड़ी जी चेंजिंग हो गए चेंजिंग करे से अपने आप को चेंज बनाए से तो चेंज थी से जरूरी है न तो जिਵੇਂ कपूस है ते वो कपूस ही रस है जरूरी है समझ आ गई है बाकी परेशानी दी कोई गाल का नहीं ठीक है ये लेक्चर जेड़ा तक मैं देना पिया एक पल्ले पा इन्हें ते अमल दरामद कर तू जरूरी है तेरा हक बनता है जरूरी है समझ आई ते कोई भी काम कीता उंदे जो बाहर नहीं करनी उंदे भूलना नहीं समझ आती पे ते बाकी मैं को भी तंग नहीं करना, इतने जितने भी वतन तंग कहीं को नहीं करना, जी का जवाब दिता। तो अगे भी मैं समझाया कि तक समझ नहीं आती क्योंकि तेरी मुंगरी जो जाइए चिबी ते अल्लाह करे से हुण तक समझ आती है थोड़ी बहुत समझे ना गाल तो लिहाजा बंदा बन ते वडेरे दा फोन ही सुन गए
हाल बैठा तो वे कि ना मैं
आज
सवेरे आसे
आज तक पता नहीं होता कंफर्म है या कौन नहीं।
एक को रत्तियां गोलियां वाला एक को पैकेट मिला 160 का देता हूँ। पैकेट जितना गिनूं लेकिन वो और मिलिया रत्तियां गोलियां नहीं को किदा है मैं था। अच्छा डब्बे गन सुन सवेरे।
अच्छा डब्बी आवे
अच्छा महीना में गिने जैसे पहले 10 गोलियां बताओ। डब्बे पे सवेरे चावल मचा के इंसान
भला आवाज़ सुनी
160 का है तो डब्बे यहाँ से तकरीबन 1500 भी यहाँ से 10 पत्ते। डब्बे पता नहीं कितने पत्ते हैं 10 ही हो सन अगे दा लइए तो 10 पत्ते कितने आसे आज चलो 1200 दी कितने आसे 1000 एक 1200 एक दे समझा आज चलो को मतार कंसन सवेरे जो ऐसा।
अच्छा
तो 1250 दिया ये जा आज चलो गन सो ठीक है
ओके
हाँ बारिश थोड़ी हमें खड़ी है
थोड़ी है लेकिन आसे सही
ना आसे
बस ठीक है वीडियो बन गई भी कटांदा पिया
काट जा।